Today, I'm going to try to draw this tower in Tallinn, Estonia. Who'd have guessed that? And as is customary at this point, I'm starting at the top. As always, I'm doing this to avoid leaving insufficient room to accommodate the entirety of the tower itself, which I've said 1,000 times, but I think I kind of regret going about it this way today. I wasn't really sure what I was planning to do with all of this foreground stuff, but I liked that it all kind of frames the tower, and also that these buildings on the sides really put into perspective its incredible height. But thanks to my approach, I lose all that. I'm happy to be drawing another tower, as you know, but going forward, I think I should choose my order of operations on more of a case-by-case basis. Sometimes this way, starting at the top, that is, will be the best way. But other times when the rest of the scene is, I don't know, contextually commensurate with the tower at hand, it may not be wise to consistently start this way, even though I love to do it. Whether I start at a different point in the drawing or go broad and block in some larger shapes, it really doesn't matter as long as I draw what I intend to. This is absolutely a shortcoming that I'm hoping to fix. I've grown comfortable drawing subjects like these, but when I'm approaching it as a scene, I really need to treat it like a scene. Speaking of scenes, even though this tower is clearly far off in the distance, the way that I draw it is as though it's an object, like a bottle or a vase. This morning, I was actually drawing a bottle of olive oil, with the little spout on top. And when I was done, I walked away for a few minutes and then came back and walked past it, sitting on the table. And I was wondering when I drew a tower. It honestly took me a few seconds to realize I hadn't drawn a tower at all. And well, I'm not sure what that says about my bottle of olive oil. Anyway, that got me thinking about how something like this very large tower isn't all that different from that bottle of olive oil, and how I can't think of any reason why I ought to treat them any differently when I go to draw them. I've heard more than a few people at this point say that everything is just shapes, even when it comes to shading and textures. Really, everything is shapes, which sounds obvious, I guess, just like all the stuff I say about drawing. But it's actually pretty difficult for me to wrap my head around. I understand it conceptually, but man, unless I'm starting a drawing with the precise intention to think like that, I'm just scribbling. A tower is a tower and a bottle is a bottle. It's so hard to click out of that, but I know I need to if I want to get better at this. Also, while what you're seeing here is technically still a scene, I ultimately treat it like a single subject, so I'm going to go ahead and say that this is in keeping with my promise to seek more of them out. If that sounds like nonsense to you, well then you've clearly not watched every other video on this channel, because I've talked about this a lot, and that is not allowed, and I will be telling on you. Anyway, and on that note, please, if you're enjoying this video or have enjoyed any or all of the others, please consider subscribing. I'm sure you're as sick of hearing it as I am of saying it, but it does make a difference, most notably to my morale. So do with that information what you will. But ideally, if you care about me at all and want to see more of these videos and would like to see me make many dozens of dollars in the process, do the right thing, the best thing, and subscribe to the channel. You'll have my gratitude, which is worth probably so much. Okay, that's more than enough of this for now. Right, so as you can see, the general shape is down. I've used a bunch of little dots to stick to the correct-ish proportions, and I think it's looking okay. There are a lot of anxious feelings flowing through me at this point, and that's because of two things. One, it's just stressful dealing with proportions like this. That spire, I don't know if I've ever seen a taller spire on a church. It's like the same size as the body of the rest of the building. It's crazy. So getting that drawn with reasonable accuracy, it's a pain. One wrong move and it's all messed up. Two, since I didn't mess it all up, thankfully, I've reached something of a transition point. From here, I'm going to add in some of the details, and I can tell you now that I don't live up to what I feel like I'm capable of. There are some decisions here that I won't try to defend. For example, these different colored paneled sections. Because I don't shade them any differently than the rest of the roof, they mostly disappear, but not enough to avoid looking messy. Also, as is literally always the case, windows, but particularly windows like these, just defy me. They will not be drawn correctly, and I cannot understand why. I suck at these, and it's aggravating. So yeah, in essence, I'm transitioning into a stage that I don't really like, at least for today, and that makes me pretty anxious. Ironically, as I get a little better at drawing, I'm also feeling immense internal pressure to be better at drawing, which is anything but helpful while I'm drawing. I'm so much more aware of every small decision, whereas a few weeks ago, I could just blissfully allow my ignorance to pull me along. Something I am trying to do with these windows, something I've never thought about or practiced in any way, but still attempt here for some reason, is apply some pressure to the lines that are on the sides that sit in shadow, if that makes sense. By the end, you'll see how this doesn't really work for me, and I kind of mess it up anyway. But if you look at the top three window-shaped shapes at the top, above the actual windows, you'll see how the left sides of them are visible thanks to their shadows, but the right sides aren't because they're in the light. I wanted to make my marks just that, but I didn't leave enough negative space on the right to imply the full shape, so I went in and immediately just marked both sides. Stuff like that can be so frustrating. You know, like I'm trying something new, something I feel matches the reference pretty well, and then it doesn't work at all. So I just draw the rest of the shape like a child. It goes back to the everything is shapes thing. Clearly, everything was not just shapes for me today. Once I saw what I was doing to these windows, I just made them windows rather than whatever shape I saw. And that bugs me a lot, but whatever. It's all practice, and that's what matters. While I make a bunch of these kind of random marks, I want to talk a little bit about avoiding overwhelm. This thing, all of this, has swallowed up a big chunk of my time. On a daily basis, there's a lot to consider. And actually, before I get into it, no matter how it sounds, I am not complaining, I'm explaining. And it's for the sake of just setting the scene, so bear with me. So when I wake up, after I get ready for the day, I'm really trying to get in at least a few minutes of practice. That might look like line exercises because I need them. It might be finding references on Pinterest and drawing those. Sometimes it's like 3 or 4 small things like the olive oil bottle. Sometimes it's one big thing like a building or something. I might find drawings or paintings to try to copy. Maybe I watch a YouTube video for more of like a walkthrough thing, but I think you get the gist. Before leaving, I'm doing a small amount of drawing for the sake of practice. Then, once we leave, which is usually an hour or so after getting up, I'm carrying around a tote bag with all the things I need to make these videos. As we walk, which is usually the main thing we're out doing, I'm just scanning the environment in search of something to draw. This part of the process can be pretty exhausting, if I'm honest, because it never really turns off. And that's something I'm used to with photography. When I do find something I'd like to draw, I take my things out, get it all set up, film the reference, sit down, frame the drawing video, draw to the best of my ability, pack everything up, and continue with the day. And at this point, I'm pretty relaxed. I've done a drawing, I've made a video, and now I can enjoy the rest of the day. When I get home, the videos are imported, edited, and all that, and then I think and make notes about what I'm going to say. When I feel confident that I have enough to work with, that what I have to say is interesting enough, hopefully, to listen to, I record it like I am now, set it to the video, export it, upload it to YouTube, title it, copy it, chapter it, and get it ready to publish. Great. So that's the day from a learning to draw YouTube video perspective. However, that doesn't include anything else, namely my real job. But I guess that's kind of irrelevant to my point. So let me finally reach it. To avoid overwhelm, it's important for me to monitor and allow or deny certain extracurricular aspects of this specific process. For example, I could spend more time practicing. That seems the most simple and straightforward way to make these videos better. But then what about learning the algorithm or SEO or experimenting with thumbnails or editing practices or upgrading equipment or blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So there's this level at which I need to keep things, and it can't be too low or I won't progress, but it can't be too high or I will burn out. And real quick, on not progressing, I think there's actually a real risk of the YouTube of it all, the production side of things, to unfortunately undermine the process of actually learning to draw. Anyway, all of this is a strange dance that happens on the edge of a knife, and if I put too much pressure on either side, I risk collapsing. So I'm trying to do what I can, not to mention have done what I can by creating streamlined systems and templates before I ever even posted any of these, to keep things smooth and level and hopefully sustainable. However, in all the best ways, this can feel all-consuming, and there's this loud voice in my head that says, no, you need to keep pushing, learn more, make more, drop everything else. But I know I can't do that. Maybe if this channel reaches some ungodly amount of subscribers and the views are crazy and I make more than a few dozen dollars, I can consider shifting things around. But right now, I can't let myself slip into, drawing for 3 hours in the evening. It's just untenable, even if it sounds nice, because it would, without fail, overwhelm me, break the systems that I've made, and every other part of my life would collapse. And just to be clear, this is much more for me than it is for you, but when I see that I'm not progressing as much as I suppose I could be capable of, it's because this isn't the only part of my life with significance. I have to remember that, and I have to consistently remind myself of that. Otherwise, I run the risk of jumping all the way in, putting all my eggs in this one basket, and maybe losing everything else in doing so. I feel like I'm a pretty determined person, but it's in times like these where reining that in is probably the wiser move, even though at my core, what I really, really want is to be better at drawing. So anyway, that was fun, wasn't it? What a journey. So here we have it. Another tower. It's actually my favorite tower that I drew today. It's also the only tower I drew today, unless you count the bottle of olive oil. As you can see, I did end up including some of that contextual stuff, but only enough to ground the tower. That's really the only reason I did it, which I don't even need to do. It's kind of just an impulse at this point. Anyway, let me know what you think about the drawing and all the other baloney that I said. And take a second to send this video to someone in need. I really appreciate you for taking the time to watch this one, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.